Earthlings. This is Piro 314. Broadcasting worldwide from the great state of Maine via the MCWCAM broadcasting platform located high in the midnight stratosphere. Welcome. Oh, it's working. Okay. Let's see about YouTube. Let's see, how do we get YouTube up? There we go. Via the MC. Okay. All right. So part of this new concept, right? So I've been taking part in the public dialogue since I was 13. Forums, YouTube 2008. That's been the longest era. Like I spent 2-3 years on the New York Times forums arguing about the Microsoft antitrust case, things like this. But then YouTube's been a long time. But it went stale like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So maybe 8 now. I don't know. Time flies when you start to get older. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't because you're young. So part of this is being responsible. Like, I just take part in conversation. I leave it to other people to be responsible for what they do with ideas they hear or jokes I tell and whatnot, misunderstandings. Vet that. And so part of this Hythaliday principle, though, because I can't really make a stream where it's like, hey, this is packaged, boom, you should buy this. Words. It's ideas. It can't be copyrighted, really, in my view. It's like it's an idea. Once you listen to it, then it's your idea, and you can, I would love to get credit or whatever, say you changed it, whatever. But, that's not actually, necessary for this kind of content. I mean, if I was to draw a beautiful cartoon or write a poem and make a song and stuff, then, okay, that would be different. But this is part of a conversation. Like if you went to a party and you end up over somewhere and you're having a conversation, one of the people can't copyright the conversation or even just slice out their part and copyright. That's ridiculous. And that's what this is, right? So still there's this Hythaliday principle, which is the idea I'm trying to zero in on, which is that, I should be responsible at the very least. It's like, oh yeah, if it's a show, which this obviously is, if it's a show, then you have to be responsible. Like you don't give misinformation. Well, this morning I did a quick dispatch because the idea is to go back to frequent streaming, and to brain dump things that build up. That's still for my own purposes. But so I did that about, I follow the QAnon stuff because I like to culture monitor. But maybe it wasn't obvious what I'm saying here. No, it's over here. The QAnon is super dangerous and it's crazy. And it's a condensed residue of all kinds of conspiratorial thinking. Now, I've always been soft on conspiracy, I wasn't that adorable, and I find it interesting because of my cultural monitoring to monitor these ideas and stuff, which happens to include conspiracies, but cryptozoology, whatever. I like weird stories, but I'm not one that's because I believe it. I didn't mention this because I'm curious, not at all. And what I was saying, this one QAnon casualties, that's, it's sad. I mean, I can't say all the stories are real and stuff. They all pretty much seem real. Some people say, oh, it's not real. But I know from my own family what's going on with QAnons and Q adjacent people and how they're separating from families and going no contact in a lot of really sad ways. Husbands and wives, dads and kids, kids and parents. Usually it's the parents going Q, but whatever. So this is all out of abundance of caution. However, I do think it's true. Just stay away from it. I'm not saying when I say something I'm interested in and I tell you about it, you could just assume I'm not saying you should look into it. Just you could I follow it. So a little bit. There's other people that follow it more than me. Like in the Q Anonymous podcast, they log in and make Phantom accounts or whatever it takes on Frank TV or whatever, and then they rebroadcast and comment on that. So it's like a degree of separation. I don't have to give my email to Pillow Guy. They do. And so on the other hand, if you're interested enough, yeah, double check. I don't have everything right. I want to be told wrong. When I say things, I'm not always like, sure, I'm right. Like, I'm a skeptic. I'm never absolutely sure. Some things I'm pretty sure, and I'll tell you the difference. But you don't have to know the difference to say, if you think I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me. And if it's something straightforward and factual that can have receipts, I will be happy. That's how I learn things. You know, I paid attention when people did that and I was wrong or off a little bit. You're zeroing in. I mean, I was probably even more wrong when I didn't have an idea about that thing at all. And when I say something, partly it's to challenge. Absolutely correct. That, and it's not as a battle, but as a data reduction process. So in terms of being clear, I want to make absolutely clear that I don't think just everybody should be interested in this at all. In terms of me talking about it, I don't think this is dangerous to anybody that isn't inclined to want to believe it. It could be like tempting, maybe, because obviously a bunch of people have gone for it. But I think the immunization of that is to realize it exists and that kind of thing. And to maybe visualize a little bit of how it gets fabricated. And I personally am interested in conspiracies where I can see why they're interesting to people, like the flat earth. It's like to think you're in a special little place. It's like the Garden of Eden and it's surrounded by ice. And it's like, oh yeah, science fiction world. I can read a science fiction book. Oh, what a great series. You know what I mean? And in that sense, I can see what's attractive. But to believe that it's actual reality is totally unnecessary. It can be enjoyed without that. And to deny science and expertise in order to visualize that's, LARPing where you've lost the thread. And the human mind's prone to that. People that are perfectly well-adjusted people are all often living in a mythos. And if that mythos is oriented a certain way, then they work smoothly in the world. But that doesn't mean that it's reality. It just means that that mythos and illusion and confusion is functional. The train keeps running on the tracks. Doesn't mean the train knows what it's doing, per se. So, different strokes for different folks. I happen to follow this kind of stuff. I followed the men's rights activism. I looked up all of that. I'm constantly, when I search, trying to find new groups of affinity that are becoming communities. So to me, QAnon was interesting, just like wait, what was that one before it? The Pizzagate stuff. I didn't expect it to be relevant on a national or a global scale, because I followed these kinds of things and libertarian, all sorts of stuff, and including on the left or whatever you want to call it, any fringe movement or hard to identify, or I knew about the spaghetti monster god, the Pastafarianism, pretty much right after it was invented. There used to be Usenet groups like Pave the Earth, and Chrome the Moon was an offshoot of this, and these are interesting. But it's interesting, like reading comic books and novels and fiction, the ideas and the intricacies and the metaphors, and often why people do it. It's often ironic, like with Pastafarianism or whatnot. But then some people might glom onto something that was started as kind of an ironic joke and take it serious. It's really a strange phenomena that is very much going on with QAnon, especially how all of these conspiracies are coming together and it's uniting sort of a new age spiritualist health movement kind of that's prone to anti-vax all the way over to JFK with new JFK Jr. aspects and just the whole spectrum. And so I think it has to be paid attention to. But I want everybody to understand that it's not like I'm curious. Quite well, literally, I'm curious about what's going on with it. But I'm not going to become that kind of a conspiracy person. I believe in looking at real conspiracies that history uncovers, like how the Bay of Pigs went down, what went on with that boat ship diplomacy, and in the Philippines, and what went on in Vietnam, and did I mention Iran-Contra yet? Because I lived through that one. So you don't need fake, made-up, fictional conspiracies except for fun, like to write a book or something, like Jurassic Park or something. Jurassic Park really happened, they covered it up. That's lame. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify about that. And maybe I'm also clarifying about, okay, I'm going to try to be responsible. I haven't watched this morning's video, this morning's dispatch. But I realized that I hadn't, thanks to a longtime viewer, that I hadn't necessarily made myself clear by just introducing that. And that this stuff is, potentially considered dangerous. Like a lot of Reddit groups are now protesting that there's an anti-vax, no new normal site, Reddit, what do they call them? Subreddit. And they've been quarantined, which means you have to click, okay, I really want to go in there, and they don't show up on the main page just because of popularity. But they're still there, and there's some other groups protesting this. And, the misinformation, because they think it's dangerous. Now, I don't know if that particular thing is productive or not, but the underlying idea that we have to be responsible for the information that we're spreading just because we broadcast, not because we're some big popular thing that people look up to, but just an ordinary conversationalist that has more than 0 people watching, some that for years, some will just wander by, and we have to remember all those people and be responsible in what we say. Right? If I want to post something about someone that died from the vaccine, that I should be very clear, what that means or whatever. Right? If I want to do this or do that, there is a context, and I think all the information should be allowed. Every kind of fact that can be substantiated. Not just made up facts that, I don't know, I heard. No. But if there's a facts that can be quoted, even if those should be discredited later, let that be for then. If there's facts presented, then things can be considered. Those facts have to be the kind of facts that can be checked. And if they don't check out, then nope, they don't count. They count as discredited. However, in presenting the facts, you can't ignore the context. we're in a situation where a lot of people, for example, the cult, the QAnons, are in a very mentally unstable state. And I have a compassion for that, but you also can't let people like that run society. So we have a situation that we need to negotiate as smoothly as possible, while also admitting that on certain things there isn't a compromise. We're going to use medical science to make medical decisions for society, for example. We're going to use facts and statistics, and even though individual cases vary, when we make our bets, we're going to know that if you bet on the side of the house, you win more than if you bet on the side of the gambler coming to the casino. So we're going to bet on the high odds things. And when we're wrong, it's going to be because the people with the most information and the best chance of getting it right didn't quite have it exactly right yet. And we're still going to bet on what they say because that statistically is better than what just fucking people intuit about what they want to believe. So yeah, not a big fan of QAnon or their attack on democracy or any of that. I think it's a huge problem that actually bears watching, especially when you consider all the Q adjacent people, where I've seen people that wouldn't consider themselves QAnon, don't believe the whole thing, coming about, hey, I heard maybe JFK Jr.'s alive and stuff like that, that only has Q as the source. So, it's a real phenomenon. I'm taking it seriously. But you don't have to follow it because it's all bullshit. You could totally ignore it. But society's going to have to deal with it. So that's all. Luckily, there's more than one of us around to do stuff and see how stuff goes and whatnot. All right. So, looks like... Oh. In the old days, what I had found is that I had to have about an hour stream. If I'd say, hey, every Sunday we had streams. For a long time it was Sunday, whatever. We had Stickum and then other streams. I did Google Hangouts. And it takes about an hour. Even if you announce the time, it still takes an hour, and then people start to show up. So I'm not going to wait for an hour. I'm going to use this because I like live, unedited stuff, so you can see how I'm really thinking, and I can't cut out the part where it shows my doubt or I contradict myself. That's the whole thing. It's a skeptic idea, so it's not 100% certain everything I say, but it can be 99% or even 99.99% as you get older. And yet it doesn't really matter how certain I think I am anyway. You have to judge it and figure it out. But I'm going to be responsible. Like, what if somebody just took my word for something? I'll try to be clear. Like, don't anybody fall for the QAnon stuff. It's a weird thing, just like the Nazis with the Nazis and their, oh, we're traditionalists, Germans. By the way, we also worship Indian mythology, and hey, there were these Iranian dudes that went over to India. Hey, maybe they also came to Germany and whatnot. And blonde people are really great. By the way, we're not blonde, the ones that run. I mean, it was just as bizarre. It's very much like QAnon. Fascism is like doublethink, inexplicable. Like the brain gets twisted in a weird knot where it specifically is designed not to make sense. And so not everybody should have to deal with that, but I like monitoring it. So that's what I was talking about. And I was kind of assuming, hey, if you like to monitor this, and it's not, it's not responsible, but I will still say, here's how you can monitor it. But I wanted to add this clarification about monitoring it, because it's dangerous. I think it's actually dangerous. Now, I also monitor this kind of stuff just out of interest, but if you'll, my old YouTube colleagues will know I don't really often talk about all of that kind of stuff, just brush upon it. But this one, I believe, is part of the explanation of how the Capitol was sacked. And I believe that's a serious thing to avoid letting happen again. So this little movement over here and its financial and other strings that it has attached to it is important for people to follow. Not everyone, but I happen to be one of the people that wants to keep in touch with it. So I shared how I'm doing that. At 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation. And I will, at this point, bid you adieu. And I put the Discord up there. It's not infinite, the number of invites from that. And specifically to see if when it runs out, and you should say. And now I'm trying to keep up with Twitch and YouTube comments, if I remember. So you could always ask there, and I'll make like a gateway for another 50 or 100 or whatever, where it'll last a long time. All right.